साधं साकालियनाथन देवकी कनया शरणं जय राम जय राम जय राम जय राम जय राम 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 जय राम 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 जय राम 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 जय राम कृष्ण गोविंद जनार्दन अच्युत परमानंद जय राम कृष्ण गोविंद जनार्दन अच्युत परमानंद भवासी राम नंदन राम अयोध्यवासी राम दशरथ नंदन राम पतित पावन जनक जीवन हितन राम पतित पावन जनक जीवन सीता मोहन राम जय राम जय राम जय राम जय राम जय राम 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 जय राम 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 जय राम 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 जय राम कृष्ण गोविंद जनार्दन कृष्ण गोविंद जनार्दन अच्युत परमानंद राम राम जय राम 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 जय राम
भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं
भज रामं मानसं भज रामं भज रे मानस भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रे मानस भज रामं भज रे मानस भज रामं कल्याण रामं भज रामं कल्याण रामं भज रामं कोदण्ड रामं भज रामं कोदण्ड रामं भज रामं पट्टाभिरामं भज रामं पावन रामं भज रामं पट्टाभिरामं भज रामं पावन रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं मानस भज रामं रामं भज रामं हरे मानस भज रामं रामं भज रामं रामं भज रामं कोदण्ड रामं भज रामं कोदण्ड रामं भज रामं पट्टाभिरामं भज रामं पावन रामं भज रामं पट्टाभिरामं भज रामं पावन रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रामं भज रे मानस भज रामं भज रे मानस भज रामं 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 भज रामं भज रे मानस भज रामं मम भज रामं मम भज रामं देवा दर्शन दीजो तुम हो जगत के दाता तुम हो जगत के दाता आओ गुरुदेवा दर्शन दीजो तुम हो जगत के दाता जगत के दाता तुम्हीं हो ब्रह्मा तुम्हीं हो विष्णु तुम्हीं हो शंकर रूपा तुम्हीं हो ब्रह्मा तुम्हीं हो विष्णु तुम्हीं हो शंकर रूपा सृष्टि स्थिति लय स्वरूप तुम हो अनादि रूपा सृष्टि स्थिति लय स्वरूप तुम हो अनादि रूपा आओ गुरुदेवा कृष्ण दीजो तुम हो जगत के दाता तुम हो जगत के दाता आओ गुरुदेवा दीजो तुम हो जगत के दाता अथनाथा दीन बंधु तुम हो आनंद रूपा अनाथनाथा दीन बंधु तुम हो आनंद रूपा अज्ञान नाशक संरक्षक आत्मज्ञान प्रधाता अज्ञान शरण संरक्षक आत्मज्ञान प्रधाता आओ गुरुदेवा दीजो तुम हो जगत के दाता जगत के दाता आओ गुरुदेवा दर्शन दाता तुम हो जगत के 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 दाता सहनौ भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Together we will chant Bhaji Govindam verses 10 to 20 please. भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति डुक्रुन्करणे वयसि गते कः कामविकारः शुष्के नीरे कः कासारः क्षीणे वित्ते कः परिवारो ज्ञाते तत्त्वे कः संसारः मा कुरु धन जन यौवन गर्वं हरति निमेषात् कालः सर्वं मायामयमिदमखिलं बोद्ध्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश विदित्वा दिनयामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायातः कालः क्रीडति गच्छत्यायुः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशावायुः काते कान्ता धनगतचिन्ता वातुल किं तव नास्ति नियन्ता त्रिजगति सज्जन संगतिरेका भवति भवार्णवतरणे नौका जटिलो मुण्डी लुञ्चितकेशः काषायाम्बर बहुकृतवेषः पश्यन्नपि च न पश्यति मूढो कृदरनिमित्तं बहुकृतवेषः अंगं गलितं फलितं मुण्डं दशनविहीनं जातं तुण्डम् वृद्धो याति गृहीत्वा दण्डं तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापिण्डम् अग्रे वह्निः पृष्ठे भानुः रात्रौ चुबुकसमर्पितजानुः करतलभिक्षस्तरुतलवासः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापाशः कुरुते गंगा सागर गमनं व्रतपरिपालनमथवा दानम् ज्ञानविहीनः सर्वमतेन मुक्तिं न भजति जन्मशतेन सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासः शय्याभूतलमजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रहभोगविलासः योगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा संगरतो वा संगविहीनः यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते चेत्तं नन्दति नन्दति नन्दत्येव भगवद्गीता किञ्चिदधीता गङ्गा जललवकणिका पीता सकृदपि येन मुरारिसमर्चा क्रियते तस्य यमेन न चर्चा भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति दुष्कृन्करणे We have covered the chapter in the previous class, the renunciation, and how renunciation leads to meditation, the highest practice for self-realization. So, the effective way of seeing your reflection means the best way to understand your self is the renunciation by efforts. So the need of this spiritual development is through regular daily study and reflection and contemplation upon the eternal truths laid down in the Shastras, in the scriptures, in the spiritual literature, in the Vedantic knowledge. When you study every day, you gain the knowledge. The more knowledge, the more your ignorance recedes. So, if you keep on gaining the knowledge consistently, continuously, then your ignorance gradually becomes thinner and thinner and thinner. The mass of desires, the crust of desires, the mantle of desires reduces. Thus, by your determined and sustained effort, continuous, consistent effort in gaining the knowledge of the self, in gaining the knowledge, the depth of understanding, once you keep on improving about the realization of what you are, understanding of what you are, who you are, then gradually you will be able to unfold the divinity within you. So the ignorance recedes and the divine self within reveals itself. You realize the self within once the complete ignorance is gone. This is the way one has to go about developing perfection in oneself. So the entire focus is on gaining the knowledge, gaining the understanding of your supreme self within. So there is no shortcuts to spiritual development. The only way is little by little, you must put your efforts towards the unfoldment of the Supreme Self. Now we get on to the chapter 14, the meditation. So, what is meditation? The whole world is under the complete ignorance, complete darkness regarding this important process of meditation. This is the great opportunity to understand our pursuit towards the Supreme Self through this chapter, the meditation. Once we have a perfect theoretical understanding, then we can execute our actions perfect and we will be able to get the results perfect. Therefore, the concepts are most important in this path. If you are not clear, then you will be leading into confusion and chaos, and then you will be doing wrong activities and will lead to wrong direction, and you will experience suffering and sorrow instead of the desired results of meditation. So, what is the proper technique? Everybody is trying to meditate. Everybody is trying to think that if I do meditation, I will get something. But nobody has any clear idea, it seems, to understand what is the proper technique of meditation. So, this topic today we will study thoroughly the concept of meditation. So, if you carefully analyze the technique of meditation, a human being alone stands out supreme. No other creature, living being, can do this meditation except a human being, because human stands out supreme amongst all living beings only by the virtue, by the bestowed upon the human being alone of possessing a strong gross intellect as well as a subtle intellect. There are two intellects provided to human being alone in this universe. One is Tikshna Buddhi, another one is Sukshma Buddhi, gross intellect and subtle intellect. Because of the virtue of these two intellects, the human being stands out supreme, the highest of creation in the entire creatures, living creatures. So, first of all, there is an intellect the human being possesses itself is hardly known to humanity. In that, there are two types of intellects. Furthermore, detailing it is almost impossible to understand. Hardly any understanding is there for the people. The intellect is not intelligence. Intellect is the capacity, the faculty in you which thinks, thinking, reasoning, judging, and deciding. That is the equipment in you which is intellect. Whereas the knowledge or information you gather from various sources is intelligence. So, intellect is the equipment in you which thinks and reasons, judges and decides any course of action. Thinking equipment is intellect, but it is designated as gross intellect because when this faculty of intellect is operating within the periphery of the external world, within the boundary of the world alone, terrestrial realm, in the depths of the world of analysis, subjects pertaining to the world, then we call that intellect as a gross intellect. It is a classification is based on the field of operation, gross intellect and subtle intellect. So, when the intellect is employed to operate within the periphery of the world is said to be gross intellect. As the thinking is confined to the boundaries, periphery of the world, and when the same intellect, same thinking, analyzing, reasoning crosses beyond the periphery of the world to enter into the transcendental, extraterrestrial, something beyond the world, thoughts enter into beyond the world, then we term that intellect is called subtle intellect, sukshma buddhi. So hardly this difference is known to human beings. So when your thinking crosses the boundary of the world, then you are said to be using subtle intellect, sukshma buddhi. So the subtle intellect distinguishes, that capacity of the subtle intellect which distinguishes between the spirit and matter, between God and the world, that is subtle intellect. That intellect which distinguishes eternal from ephemeral, real and unreal. So, that quality of the intellect which distinguishes from the God and the world is subtle intellect, Sukshma Buddhi. So, Tikshna Buddhi and Sukshma Buddhi are the two intellects. So, the Sukshma Buddhi is used in meditation. So, only subtle intellect is developed, it is employed in meditation, and that subtle intellect alone takes the individual to spiritual enlightenment, attainment of God realization. So, therefore, no other living being, no other being possesses a subtle intellect, this unique faculty. Gross intellect itself is hardly developed to animals, very rudimentary level, whereas the, the gross intellect is rudimentary to the sharp, blunt and sharp, like very, very great thinkers like Einstein, Newton, the great scientists, their intellect is very sharp. They go to the depths of this world to bring out various laws which pertaining to the worldly subjects like physics, chemistry, they based on various laws conducted in this world. Those things are brought about by the scientists. What they are employing? They are employing gross intellect, tikshna buddhi, whereas subtle intellect is beyond the periphery of the world itself. It enters into the realm beyond the world, something transcendental, something extraterrestrial, something God related, something other than the world. That intellect is employed only in the meditation. When you perform, when you practice meditation, you reach the highest state of enlightenment. This quality of faculty is only available to human beings, but no human being makes this great use of this equipment because of their preoccupation with the world and losing the grandeur and dignity and prestige of a supreme state they can reach in this very lifetime. They squitter away, they squander away, they fritter away. This is the great faculty, unique faculty human being alone possesses, the subtle intellect. At best, what the animals can claim to have is the basic rudimentary gross intellect, which distinguishes a basic comparison, like a dog distinguishes a master and a stranger. food and dirt. It can only distinguish that much, but it cannot think beyond. Therefore, it's only applicable for the rudimentary, basic discriminating capacity of gross intellect the animal can put, at best can claim to have, that which the all the living creatures are denied, even powerful gross intellect like human being. But therefore, the animal cannot stretch beyond that, beyond the minuscule part of the terrestrial world. That within the terrestrial world, minimum application is for the living beings. Therefore, human beings govern the whole world also, control the whole animals in the zoo, even tiger, mighty elephant, they are controlled by human being because of the virtue of possessing a powerful gross intellect, only human being. So, and animals hardly have subtle intellect because no animal can think beyond the world. So, this is the current state of the human being, but how to use this subtle intellect is this, in this meditation we are going to understand. So because the structure of human being, if you carefully analyze, it is the mind that is a continuously flowing its thoughts to different direction and dimension. It is a definition of a mind. Mind is nothing but flow of thoughts. A river flowing is mind flowing. If you close your eyes, continuously there is a flood of thoughts coming and going into the mind. That is the manas. The mind definition is flow of thoughts. So that is the powerful flow of thoughts is called desires, and the desires make you act in this particular field, whatever you are engaged in. Therefore, mind is mere continuous flow of thoughts, and it acts like a, example is given like a film in the projector. So if you see the movie, there is a projector through which the light is projected, and there is a film running continuously, which is seen on the theater screen. So it is a movie in the projector. So the film consists of a series of pictures, series of photos. So that is the film which is continuously running. So these pictures passing through the light in a projector project the movie on the screen. So there is a certain speed the reel, we say the pictures, the reel will be flowing through the light which projects the movie screen. The rapid movement, the velocity of the pictures produce the solidarity of the movie, of the projection. So you see a hero is walking or drinking or whatever the continuous activity, it is because of the series of various pictures rolling in a different RPM through the light. Light is put on through this pictures rolling that beautiful screen, you see the movie. So similarly, you see this solidarity of this external world. You see this beautiful world of objects and beings because of your mind is the film. Mind is the reel. Mind is a continuous flow of thoughts, which is this world is beautifully projected because of your thoughts flowing continuously with the rapid RPM, rapid movement. You feel the solidarity of this world. Your mind is like the film. A similar projection is this world. There is no world apart from your mind and its thoughts and ideas. Because in the deep sleep state, if you go to bed, there is no thoughts, there is no flow of thoughts, there is no mind. Therefore, there is no world. The moment you wake up from the deep sleep state to waking state, then the film start rolling, the mind starts flowing, the thoughts starts flowing. Then you see the solidarity of this external world of objects and beings and experiences flowing. So the mind is the film and your thoughts are the pictures. The moment you see a pen is nothing but a, for example, you see a ballpoint pen. This pen is in the mind as a thought of the pen. The moment you do not have a thought of the pen, you can't see the pen. It is a thought which is projecting as a pen. So the mind is the cause for this, the projection of this world is the thought or the pictures in the mind. So the rapid movement of thoughts through the light of consciousness behind the mind, behind these thoughts, the pure consciousness, the God consciousness, just like a light projected through the film, the consciousness, the God consciousness, pure consciousness projected through the mind, you experience this solidarity of this world. So, the rapid movement of thoughts through the light of consciousness, the self, the Atman, creates this solid, substantial world. You feel substantial, solid world because of the consciousness plus the mind. Even when the mind is, as we discussed, temporarily off, cut off in the deep sleep, the world is no more and you are in the thoughtless state, which is a temporary state. When the thoughts are completely eradicated, thoughts are completely removed from the mind, when the thoughtlessness is experienced in the mind, then the world disappears. There is no thoughts, no world. Deep sleep, similarly, there is no thoughts, no world. By conscious effort, you become enlightened, you become God realized, you become the consciousness. Then onwards, consciousness alone exists, remains, because the spiritual enlightenment is nothing but thoughtless state, desireless state, vasanalessness, permanent state. Right now, you are going to the deep sleep state is a temporary state where the mind is cut off temporarily, which is dormant state. But when you remove these thoughts by consistent effort, you will reach the realization of pure consciousness. You realize the divine self only through this application of this meditation. The technique of meditation leads to enlightenment where the mind will be extinct because there will not be any more thoughts in the mind. That is the divinity, and divinity you will reach. So what is the process, the technique? The mind of this current generation, at this present generation, the mind of entire world is totally in chaotic condition. Nobody's mind is in control of themselves. It's the mind that is creating havoc in the human life. The mind is destroying the human being's peace and happiness. This is the entire condition of today's state of affairs of the people. So, why? Because people's mind means thoughts running helter and skelter, no direction, no dimension. They run wildly in all directions like a wild dog. It goes to all directions and dimensions. What is that mind is constantly running after? The mind is chasing these worldly objects and emotions for materiality and sensuality, indulgences. That is the current state of mind's thoughts. Seeking material gain, You wanted to earn more and more money, more and more objects, more and more pleasures of sensuality, indulgences, which causes this craving of this mind's attractions towards the sensual pleasures and material enjoyments, material acquisition, which causes agitations, disturbances in the mind. So mind gets disturbed, agitated because of its nature towards the worldly indulgences. Any disturbed mind, any agitated mind, any mind which is oscillating, fluctuating, not stable minded, is unfit for concentration. For the practice of concentration, you need a stable mind, you need a calm mind, you need a peaceful mind which can be used for concentrating on any other activity. Any action to execute, you need a stable mind, calm mind. Agitated mind cannot concentrate, much less meditation. Meditation obviously impossible, because meditation needs a highest level of concentration. The general concentration itself needed for mind to be calm, but at this moment mind is disturbed for everyone because of its sensual indulgences and material pursuits, material gains. Therefore, the understanding of this strategy of meditation must be crystal clear. The strategy of meditation is to the mind, converge the mind of its thoughts to single thought, from the millions of thoughts flowing towards the single thought flow. That is the strategy of meditation, is to converge the mind to single thought on the particular object or being. Then that mind which is on the single thought, and ultimately you got to annul the thought, destroy the thought, make the thought completely extricated, destroying. That is the thoughtlessness, that is the strategy of the mind, meditation. So if you in the meditation, only the technique which converges. Right now mind is diverging, mind is multiplying, mind is expanding to all sorts of thoughts which are directionless, dimensionless. It can ask for anything. So it is the only meditation which helps to converge the mind to a single thought and ultimately annul it, nullify it. Zero you have to make. That is the strategy of meditation. The practice of meditation, therefore, it is a prerequisite. You need a basic mind which is peaceful, because it needs high level practice of concentration. So you need to be prepared. Your mind has to be prepared. Therefore, it requires a mind which is free from the pressures, the disturbances of all the extroverted activity, all the extroverted pursuits, extroverted interests, worldly interests makes the mind more divergent, more disturbed. Therefore, it is unfit for meditation. A mind that remains calm and composed and has turned inward, has turned opposite to the world, something beyond the world, not to look for outside but look within, turned inward, introverted, a stable mind with less desires for the world. Such a mind alone is fit. So one attains that state of calm mind, peaceful mind, cool mind, agitation less mind only through the sustained practices, spiritual disciplines, sustained physical, emotional, mental, and intellectual disciplines must be thoroughly practiced. To come to the seat of meditation, you got to be thorough with the practices. What are the practices? Physical practice, mental, emotional practice, intellectual practices. You got to do it to keep the mind fit for meditation. It is a prerequisite. It is the eligible criterion which hardly any human being understands. They directly go into meditation without sufficient preparation of the mind, and they don't get the results, and they complain and grumble, and they do not understand the clue what's happening within them. And in fact, it is destroying their pursuit, and they are quite going opposite direction. They are devolving rather than evolving, flowering their personality, growing into the spiritual dimension. So what is that they supposed to do? They supposed to do that practices before get on to the meditation, practicing karma, which is action, karma yoga, action dedicated to the supreme self, seva, service and sacrifice, karma yoga, and bhakti, which is devotional practice, chasing the emotions, chasten the emotion, purify the emotion through bhakti, through devotional practices, and jnana yoga, knowledge of the self, gaining the knowledge of the spiritual Vedantic literature. So, a mind which is supposed to be turned from extroversion to introversion through these three disciplines, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and jnana yoga, makes the agitated mind, extroverted mind, worldly mind, running after the materiality, sensualistic mind, to introverted, calm, looking within, peaceful mind, stable mind, mind got rid of these disturbances. That status you will get only when you are established through these practices of karma yoga, actions dedicated to the higher cause, bhakti yoga, emotions dedicated to the self, channelizing feelings towards the self, not to the world, and knowledge of higher self, self knowledge. The more these practices you perform, the more your mind turns introvert and made the mind fit for the meditation. A mind thus turned introvert is made to chant the mantra in meditation. What is that mantra? The word symbol Om. So you got to choose the mantra in meditation. So a mantra generally recommended is the Om mantra, which represents the supreme God, the Atman, the self, which is the ultimate purpose and goal of human existence. So the Brahman is the ultimate aim to be reached and realized. So the chant is known as japa. Japa is nothing but chanting, means single pointed thought flow. So you could choose a mantra that inspires you, whatever mantra you would like to chant. It is your choice based on your comfort and your convenience. It should be conducive for your mind's liking. Then you can choose that mantra. When the mantra in japa, the mind repeats the mantra, just like you repeat the mantra Om. The chant of the Om is like this: Om, Om. So there is a chant of mantra Om and there is a silence. There is Om, there is a silence. There is Om, there is a silence. This is the thought flow which is in the mind chanting, keeping the self as the ultimate goal, and the intellect observes the chant. Intellect observes the chant. So witnesses that this thing single thought flow. This thought flow is aimed at running, channelizing towards the ultimate goal of the supreme self is the subtle intellect. During the chant, the mind may slip into other thoughts. So whenever you are chanting Om, 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 beyond a point, the mind will go into other channels. That in that home somebody is there, instead of Om, it will go to home or it will go to Rome. It will go to any direction or any dimension. Mind has no direction or dimension. It will go anywhere. So you got to bring the mind to the chant again by powerful intellect. So during the chant, the mind may slip into the other thoughts, other ideas. It has this tendency to wander, to meander, to slip away to the past and future. So your intellect has to be employed to pull the mind to back to the chosen thought of the mantra Om, to chosen line of thought. That is the practice of meditation. Thus, by repeated chant, repeated consistent effort, the mind is kept focused on the thought flow, on the thought. So keeping the mind on the chant and continuously is the effort of the intellect and the highest spiritual effort by the intellect. So this is the practice of meditation. So meditation is nothing but, now it's a simple definition, it's an art. Meditation is an art, skill of maintaining the mind in focus upon a chosen thought like mantra Om, to the exclusion of all other thoughts. You will not encourage any other thought except whatever thought you have chosen, because your aim is to achieve the supreme self. That is the technique of meditation. That is the definition of meditation. It is an art of maintaining the mind on a single thought, chosen thought, to the exclusion of all other thoughts. In the process of meditation, the chant is gradually brought out. Once you keep on chanting the mantra Om with the intellect observing and focusing, and the chant is going, gradually the chant reduced to, brought to mental whispers. There is no more louder chant. The sound is no more. It gradually becomes mental whispers and finally end in silence. So the mind becomes silent. In that silence, the intellect is aware of the entire proceedings until the moment of silence is reached. When the silence is reached, the intellect is observing till the starting of the sound to the silence. The silence is the cessation of thought flow, because the moment chanting is ceased, silence achieved, then the mind is extinct. There is no more thought flow. Like chant Om, silence, Om, silence. The Om is no more, silence alone remains. That silence indicates the mind is extinct, mind is ceased, thought flow is over, mind is a thought flow. There is no more thought flow. And that indicates the extinction of mind. The intellect till now is observing the sound and silence, therefore it is distinguishing discriminating faculty which is distinguishing between the sound and silence, om and silence, om and silence. When the silence is only there, the mind is gone. There are two things are not there. Therefore, two things means sound and silence no more. Only silence exists. Therefore, the intellect cannot operate because intellect needs minimum two things to distinguish. When there is only one, intellect also goes. Intellect cannot function. So there is nothing to observe. The intellect which has been observing the chant also ceases, as there is nothing for it to observe because it's only silence remains. What remains is the pure silence, dynamic silence, that pure silence, the pure awareness, the pure consciousness is the enlightenment. That absolute reality, that is the absolute state of Brahman. This is the process of meditation. This is the process of meditation. So, what is the meditation? It is a great scientific technique. It is a very, very deep, advanced technique to keep the mind and intellect completely nullified and self realization unfolds and you reach the self realization. So, it's a technique which exhausts the mind and intellect because there is no more mind. Mind means thoughts, intellect is that which observes thoughts. Both disappear, then self realization, supreme self exposed within. So, scientific technique is the meditation to exhaust your thoughts, to destroy it, to completely nullify your thoughts and expose the supreme self within. At this moment, the God, the Atman, is encrusted by thoughts and desires of the mind and intellect. So, through process of meditation, you remove the thoughts and make thoughtless. Then what you experience is realization. The intellect's role is most important because it has to reduce the desires, plays an all important role. Intellect plays an all important role. It is the maximum importance is given to intellect only because it has to govern the mind, reduce the thoughts flow towards the single thought, ultimately destroy the thought also. Only the role playing is the intellect, which is not known, not developed. Especially in this meditation, you need a powerful subtle intellect, which is very intense thought towards the supreme self, which is very rare. So the intellect plays all important role in it, maintaining its control on the mind during the entire procedure of meditation. So meditation, therefore, is not a mere mechanical repetition of chanting which people do every day. They just do a repetition of mantra without having any depth, without having any understanding and real commensurate growth in the personality. They don't have any capacity to measure it also. They just plunge into meditation by mechanical repetition of a mantra without knowing. That will not give you any desired results in meditation. It's not a mechanical repetition of mantra. The human mind has a tendency to be drawn to a particular object or being, a tangible or intangible, even towards a deity. Mechanically, a mind is a natural tendency to be drawn towards worldly objects and beings and trying to get attached and trying to follow that objects of its desires, and its thoughts entertain worldly objects because of its likes and dislikes, and its thoughts start flowing in that direction. You like something, your mind is drawn towards that particular object and your thoughts flowing in that direction. If the intellect does not exercise its control, if the intellect is not sufficiently developed to control the mind's thought flow over the objects of the mind, the thought flow continues more and more, and the mind has its way. It can cherish the thought of the object continuously for a period of time because it has a continuous thought flow. It is an attraction towards the object or being. It can cherish a thought flow for a longer time. as as you are aware, two young lovers who you sit in the park, their mind having attractions, likes and dislikes, they both thoughts are towards their company. A boy's thoughts towards the lover and girl's thoughts towards the boyfriend. They both having these thoughts towards them mechanically morning to evening. That is nothing to do with the concentration skill in meditation. It is a mind's without conscious effort going towards the object of its liking by itself without any effort is not the concentration. It is actually impulsive, indiscriminate thought flow. It is infatuation. As the young lovers do, this is more emotional indulgence, emotional feeling. It is not technique of meditation because meditation means extraordinary effort is needed, whereas the mind by itself goes, it is indulgence. It is mental infatuation. That is not to be taken as meditation. When the mind runs in the direction of its desired object, its liking object, without the awareness of the intellect, without governance of the intellect, without discretion of the intellect, then it is called not called meditation. Whereas meditation requires a disciplined effort by a powerful intellect of the practitioner, where the intellect needs to be alert, supervising constantly all the time the mind and steering the mind towards the chosen thought only to the exclusion of all other thoughts. That is the consistent effort maintained by the intellect in the practitioner to keep the mind's focus on the chosen thought of chant and prevent the mind from slipping to into any other thought, because the tendency of the mind is to slip into any other thought. Therefore it is governing that mind by the powerful intellect. Such a programmed, disciplined, supervising concentration on a chosen mantra is meditation. So, meditation is not a casual practice, it is a high level concentrated practice because you need a very powerful intellect to control the mind. So, uncontrolled, indisciplined thought flow is a mental indulgence. It is not mental concentration, it's a mental indulgence which increases the desires, which is agitates the mind. Whereas a controlled, disciplined thought flow towards a chosen direction by the intellect is a concentration. So, concentration is different from mental indulgence, where the mind itself goes by itself without awareness, without supervision by the intellect, by its own liking, its own desire. That is not concentration. So, by concentration is meditation, where the intellect is focusing on the chosen mind's thought flow, which is supervised and controlled concentration. Both are flow of thoughts. In the both meditation and mental indulgence, both are thought flows only, but the direction is quite opposite. They are of opposite quality, opposite nature. They produce different conflicting results. The results are quite opposite. So because mental indulgence destroys human being, meditation gives enlightenment, supreme peace and bliss, develops to human perfection. So mental indulgence increases desires, increases disturbances, and suffer the sorrows thereof. Whereas while meditation removes the desires, existing desires also removed, along with enlightenment. They act like diarrhea and purgative, medicine for diarrhea. Mental indulgence is like diarrhea, and purgative is like meditation, seemingly the same but with a distinct difference. So, diarrhea is a disease while purgative is a remedy. So, therefore, likewise, thoughts running after the world, thoughts running towards the objects and beings of the world, unchecked by a discerning intellect, increases desires. So, when the mind going by itself through likes and dislikes without checked by the intellect, without supervised by the intellect, without sanctioned by the intellect, increases the desires and increases the sorrow and suffering. Whereas mental agitations, and it also creates mental instability. The mental indulgence of the thoughts increases instability, whereas the disciplined thought flow, governed by the intellect, decreases the desires and increases the peace and bliss, stability, because of result of decreasing desires towards the world. Finally, the practice of meditation, the practice of meditation annihilates, destroys all desires, including the last desire for reaching enlightenment, also destroyed by the meditation process only by powerful intellect, and regains your original nature, your real self, your identity of who you are. You attain that state of godhood, the supreme self. Therefore, one has to practice the meditation only when sufficiently prepared the mind through the practices of karma bhakti jnana. The meditation can be practiced. You cannot practice a single pointed meditation, single pointed thought concentration until you have risen above, you have grown above this worldly attractions and aversions, worldly likes and dislikes, attachments and desires. Until unless you are above the desires and attractions and attachments, you are unfit for meditation. You cannot practice it. It's like flying an aircraft with heavy loaded, overloaded aircraft. Cannot fly. Similarly, for practicing single pointed meditation thought flow, you have to rise above this mundane, worldly desires and attachments. Your mind must be free from the worldly thoughts and desires as much as possible. When your mind becomes free from worldly attractions and entanglements and samsaric objects and beings, then it remains under the control of the intellect. It can come to under control of the intellect only when the mind is relatively free from the worldly desires. Mind will listen to you, whatever you say, when the mind is free from the worldly desires, worldly thoughts, worldly attachments and entanglements. When the mind is fully preoccupied, fully loaded with desires, it is incapable of concentration and meditation. And you are only objective when the mind is free from attachments and desires in your transactions of life. So, such a mind which is free from desires and attachments, you can keep in any activity, it can concentrate in any transaction, in any experience. You can feel the presence of the mind. It will not go to the past or future, it is stable enough. So, the progress and success in meditation is therefore the progress, development, and success of meditation, therefore directly proportional to the preparation of the mind. The more prepared mind, more success in meditation, more progress in meditation. Less prepared mind, less success, less progress. No preparation of the mind, no success, no progress. This is a law. And whole world is engaged in meditation without preparation. The preparation is reduction of the desires, sufficiently attachments and attractions. So the purer the mind must reach cleansed position before you reach to the seat of meditation. If you want to sit in the meditation, your mind must be free from the world. It must be stable enough. Wherever you want to keep the mind must be stable. That is the state you should reach before sitting for meditation. The purer the mind, the easier it to practice meditation. Pure mind, free mind with less agitations, mind with peaceful calmness can be able to fit for meditation. Purity of the mind means rendering it free of desires and expectations. You got to reduce your desires, you got to reduce your attachments, you got to reduce your mental entanglements and measurement. So, that is the quality of mind which is needed for meditation. Means renunciation. The renunciation is the prerequisite for meditation, nothing less. So, blessed are those pure in heart, for they shall see God, says the Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ reached that state. Blessed are those who got the pure heart, because they can see God. So assures Jesus Christ. Blessed are those pure in heart, because pure heart can see God, means they can reach God, they can reach the enlightenment, says the Jesus Christ. So you must first gain the purity of the mind. But people directly try to meditate without initial preparation. They damage the mind. Without purifying the mind, they will not give up their attachments and desires and their hopes and expectations, yearnings and cravings. They will not pay the price, but they want to meditate and reach the enlightenment. Those extroverted people having materialistic and sensual life wish to become overnight, they want to become Krishna or Christ. It is impossible. So, first thing is preparation before getting on to meditation, which is the state of enlightenment you reach. First, your state is state of renunciation, means free from worldly thought and desires, is the qualification before sitting on meditation practice. We'll continue in the next class. The couple of paragraphs left in this topic. Thank you very much. Hari Om.